What is up, Design Family, and welcome back to another episode of Fit Design TV. On today's episode, I'll be taking you guys through the key and the top questions that I often get asked as a fashion designer, as someone who's helped thousands of brands design, develop, and produce full collections from scratch in less than 6 months. And ultimately, these are the questions that I get recurring on a day-to-day basis. If you watch one episode from the channel, this is it. Welcome to Fit Design TV. Are you interested in sports fashion, design, and manufacturing? Are you establishing your own brand? You're looking good. Anthony, how are we doing? Do you want to? Thank you. Well, you've come to the right place. Lights, camera, action. Number one is, Shadi, I want to start a fashion brand. How much money do I need in order to start my fashion brand? So there are a bunch of different questions here, but I'll help you reverse engineer what it is. First, you need to understand your costs. You're going to have a variety of different costs, and we're assuming you're starting this from a business mindset. Number one, you have your design and your development costs. Even if you plan on doing these on your own time, you need to be able to quantify what an hour of your time costs and use that towards your design costs. Two, you need to truly understand what your core production costs are going to be. So your production costs are going to be a mix of, number one, what is the minimum order quantity you have to order? If you're buying, let's just say 15 or 350 shirts at $20 or $50, your production cost on that specific run is going to be 350 times the cost price, right? That's your total cost. But then you need to add in, what is the cost to actually ship the product from your warehouse or from your factory all the way to your warehouse? What are the duties? What are the tariffs? You really need to understand wholeheartedly what your actual production cost is going to be, including your duties, including your shipping. Also, what are your packaging costs? When you create a production, you're not only going to have your core garments, you're going to have the packaging, the accessories, the trims, all of the additional factors that come with the product in order to create and to cultivate a stronger brand identity. Next, once you receive the product, well, what's it going to cost you to actually store them? Are you shipping them out of a warehouse? Are you using a 3PL? Are you shipping them out of your bedroom? Sure. What are those storage costs? Also, what is it going to cost you to ship to the customer? So all in all, you're going to have a concrete ballpark of what it costs to actually get up and running, and also what it costs to acquire a customer. If you're marketing, what is the money that you're going to spend on running ads? What money are you going to spend on actual influencer marketing? So all of these questions need to be answered. If I was to look at a typical production for creating a single style, so a single style might be a t-shirt in 3 colorways. And let's assume you're hitting a minimum order quantity of around 350 pieces, which is incredibly low. You're looking at around, I would say, 10 to 15,000. This is shipped and received. So all in all, you need to be able to account for that in every calculation you have. And of course, as you scale your collections, you can multiply that average cost of 15,000 per product according to the different products that you have. As you increase in scale, sure, you'll be able to benefit from economies of scale, but starting off, this is always something you have to keep in the back of your mind. Number two is, Shadi, do I need to have actual fashion design experience in order to start and run a fashion brand? I'll give you guys a spoiler alert. I actually have zero traditional fashion design education. Everything that I have sort of built and all the knowledge that I've accrued has been through actually teaching myself, using Google, using YouTube, using Skillshare, basically just putting myself out there and making mistakes time and time again, and ultimately learning as I went along. But this does not necessarily mean that you have to make all the mistakes that I have to make. You don't have to have a traditional fashion design background, but you do need to have basic knowledge in these core competence areas. Number one, know how to put together a tech pack. I've done a video in the past that runs you guys through this, so I highly recommend you check it out. Two, have some basic understanding of business knowledge, how to set up an LLC, how to actually register an LLC, your trademark, your copywriting. Also, make sure that you have some basic understanding of what it's going to take to actually become profitable. What is going to be your break even? How much do you need to charge? What financials you need to be able to prepare in order to make sure your company is profitable? Also, make sure you have a basic understanding of fabrics. I'm not saying to become the next fabric wizard, but understand the difference between synthetic fabrics and organic fabrics or natural fabrics and what distinctions those have. Have a base level knowledge of all of this in order to be able to interact with anyone that you hire in a way that, number one, empowers them to actually make the right decisions, and two, so that you are able to go back and forth and to have a conversation that is going to allow you to get the right points across. If you're able to communicate in the language of the people you work with, well, you're going to be able to achieve a better end result. But who are the people that you ultimately need to bring on your side? Well, sure, number one is going to be someone that can help you to translate your creative ideas into pen and paper. There's no point in having the most creative ideas, the most amazing and aesthetically pleasing brand if it's only in your head. You need to be able to put it to paper. 2, a tech pack designer, someone who's able to actually take these designs and translate them into a way that a factory can understand. 3, you want to have some ability to be able to understand fabric, whether if it's the same designer that's created the production for you or the tech pack for you, to have an understanding of what fabrics are we using. Okay, so we're trying to create a waterproof garment that is meant for running. Sure, we should be using this woven fabric made out of this composition with these finishes. In short, you don't have to be a fashion designer, but you do need to have fashion skills. So you can learn all this online. I highly recommend you check out our channel. I highly recommend you go through all the videos, because every single bit of information that you will need to know to start your own brand, I guarantee you I've talked about it in the past. So Shadi, where do I start, or where even do I start when starting a fashion brand? Number one is you start at the beginning. Identify what brand you're trying to create. What is the problem you're trying to solve? What niche in the industry are you trying to sort of fit into? Who is your customer avatar? What is the type of person that would buy from your brand? Because understanding your person is going to allow you to understand their problems. If you understand their problems, you're able to create the framework for your brand, right? How it looks, how it feels, how it sounds. All of these things are going to allow you to start to actually create a concrete plan. It's going to take you closer to your finished result. Once you've identified your customer and the problems they're facing, now you look at your creating your brand identity, your logo, your icon, your word mark. And then once you have those in place, then you go into creating your product ranges. I would typically recommend to do 2 to 3 product ranges in advance. So even if you're a small brand, understand that just creating one collection and launching with one collection is going to put you in a very difficult position, because you always have to balance the idea of creating future product and selling current product. When you're starting off, it's good to get off on the right track and plan 2 to 3 collections in advance. So if this year you know you're going to launch, let's just say 12 different styles, well, maybe you split up those 12 different styles into 3 collections, 4, 4, and 4. This is going to allow you to think ahead. Once you've actually created the skeleton, now it's time to design your product. You're going to design the product based on what you know your customer avatar is going to want and the problems that they're going to face, and ultimately what the USPs or the unique selling points you want to project are going to be. Once you've designed your product, now it's time to actually create a tech pack. To create a tech pack in order to be able to communicate with the factory. Once you've created the tech pack, now you go out and find the right supplier. You find the right supplier by number one, making sure that you're asking the right questions. And I've done a separate video in the past in terms of what questions to ask, but in general, be professional, be direct, be straightforward. Understand that at the end of the day, your interaction with the supplier should be a win-win situation. It shouldn't be that you're trying to get the best deal possible and you're trying to burn them at all costs. Once you've interacted with your supplier, create a prototype. Your prototype is going to allow you to see your design, see how it fits, to see the detailings, and ultimately to make sure that the supplier has understood the core components of your tech pack. And of course, if there are any adjustments, well, then you communicate them directly to the supplier in a way that's concrete and direct, and you move into production. Once you move into production, you'll be able to receive a pre-production sample that is going to be based off of your core adjustments that you made before. You'll be able to review it, test it on a variety of different body types, make sure that you're using your customer avatar, so there's no point if you are catering towards a bigger build of people to go for a more traditional or leaner build. It's not going to be an accurate representation of who your target market is going to be. Once you've green-lighted your production, now it's time to get into pre-marketing. You should have access to your pre-production samples. Make sure to shoot them for your website. Make sure to be setting up your website at the same time. You can set it up through Wix, you can set it up through Shopify, any platform that you find that works for you. And of course, if you wanted to create something that is truly unique, truly customized, well, you can hire a talented or a dedicated designer in order to do that. And if you guys are interested in working with us, the same people who have designed and developed thousands of the best websites for the best sportswear brands across the world, will check the link in the description and we can help you out with that, or at least guide you in the right direction. Once you've created your marketing, once you've shot your products, you've created your campaigns, now it's time to take inventory, to receive your product, to take inventory, and to create a working relationship with a proper shipper, whether it's DHL, whether it's UPS, whether it's Aramex. Make sure that you're going directly to their corporate HQ or their corporate sort of services and ask them for the best rates that they can probably offer you. Of course, they're going to come back to you first with some bullshit rates, negotiate, go back and forth, and know what the market is charging, get multiple quotations from multiple different offers, and make sure that you're getting the best deal possible and you're building the best relationship possible. Now it's time to actually ship to your customer. Once you set up your website, once you have everything on there, you've been marketing for a while and you've created customer demand. Now it's time to ship, to follow up with your customer, make sure everything is good, give them the proper after sales service if they need, and voila, you have your fashion brand up and running. And yes, it's a lot of work, but it's extremely and fundamentally fulfilling. Shadi, is it possible to do everything myself, or do I need to hire help? So this is going to come down to a value equation. At the end of the day, is it going to cost you more to try to do it yourself? And what I mean by this, is it going to cost you more in terms of your time, in terms of your effort, in terms of where you're actually not being able to allocate your resources into by just trying to do everything yourself? At the end of the day, if you're someone who knows your strengths and understands your weaknesses and you're able to outsource those weaknesses and you can afford to do so, well, my biggest recommendation would be 110% to do so. And if you can't, right, let's just say your budget doesn't allow it, at least consult with someone who's been in the space before. Instead of having to make the mistakes yourself and spend time, money, effort, going through weeks and weeks, making just simple mistakes that can be easily avoided, at least consult someone, spend an hour, spend 2 hours and ask the right questions, ask the questions that I'm probably answering today, and maybe questions that are a little bit more specific and tailored to you, and honestly, cut directly to the chase. But yes, in my opinion, if you are motivated enough and if you are dedicated enough, you can definitely get by without any help. But of course, if you know where your priorities lie and you can afford to hire someone, then you definitely should. At the end of the day, the best entrepreneurs in the world are not people who are working solo. These are people who understand their strengths and outsource and have built a team of talented individuals to take over the parts of themselves that they find to be the weakest. Next up is, Shadi, how do I actually find the right manufacturer? And there's no easy answer to this. Of course, the number one way that I would say is to actually just get out there and start engaging with suppliers. Whether it's through the internet, whether it's through clothingregister.com, or whether it's through Alibaba.com, where you're able to sort by supplier recommendations and supplier reviews to make sure that you are communicating with the best supplier, with best reviews, and with the best reputation. You're going to have to go through the emotions. What I personally like to do is, yes, I do use Alibaba if I need to get something niche or specific, but a lot of the core relations that I built have been in person through the use of exhibitions, whether it's Magic in Las Vegas or it's ISPO in Munich. Actually going out there, flying out there and engaging with your suppliers is going to be a huge return on your investment in the time spent. Next up, Shadi, well, I cannot self-fund. So how do I find the proper funding? And again, this is going to be dependent on your specific scenario. Can you attract investors? Are these people that can be in your immediate circle, friends, family, people that are willing to invest in you and maybe give you a 0% interest loan, or maybe a angel investor that's able to invest into you early on? Or are you able to achieve a line of credit from a local bank? Or are you able to save up through your job, set some money aside and actually go ahead and create your brand? Or are you able to use a credit card? The sources of funding are going to be varied and it's going to be very dependent on where you are. But what I say is ultimately know your numbers inside out, because if you're going to approach someone to get funded by your company, no one is going to accept that funding opportunity without an understanding of your business mechanics, what you aim to charge, how you aim to make their money back, how you aim to make this a profitable investment. So ultimately, you should do the legwork beforehand to really figure out the ins and outs of your business and make sure that you are walking into a profitable endeavor that you're able to see through all the way. How do I know I'm going to be profitable? Well, this is all about reverse engineering. What is profitability? At the end of the day, profitability is your revenue, what you charge for a product, minus the complete cost of goods sold, which is your all-in price. If you've priced correctly, so if it costs you, let's just say $40 to sell a product, and that includes the cost of goods, the shipping, and the marketing, but you're charging $60, so you're making a $20 profit, which of course is a percentage. You are going to be profitable there. So as long as you understand what your costs are going to be and be able to calculate them and to categorize them correctly, you're going to be profitable. What most people don't do is they don't actually do the work to figure out what their costs are going to be, and they sort of go into everything willy-nilly and just hoping for the best. Another good way to know if you're going to be profitable is to look at existing brands in your space. If you have brands that you can align with and you understand their ins and outs and who their target customer is, and let's just say even to 80% or to 85%, you can see that your brand identifies with them and their market that they're operating in. Well, if they've done it and they've been successful, then why not you? So be able to compare and contrast yourself to others that are within a similar space to you. What is the best country for me to launch my brand in? And of course, with the digital age, with our access to internet and the ability to actually connect with people from all over the globe, and to sell to people from all over the world simply through our e-commerce channels, any country is the best country to start in. You're really not limited in this regard. Sure, there are base fundamentals that I would recommend. Make sure that you have a working government. Make sure that you have a decent logistics channel, the ability to take in product and to store it. Make sure you have access to reliable shipping. Make sure you have access to reliable internet. Make sure that you have access to a reliable flow of exposure to the world, which is going to come down to you and the media channels you create. Other than that, you can be a brand from halfway across the world selling to the United States, and we've seen this time and time again. The world has compressed itself and has become much, much smaller than it was 5, 10, 15 years ago. So use that to your advantage. You now have the ability to catch the attention of anyone across the world and to get into their hearts and to get them to trust you, to get them to take a chance on you. Next up is Shadi. How do I actually know that my product and my brand is going to work? And there's 4 key ways that you can sort of understand if your brand is destined to work or not. Number 1 is you need to identify market demand. You need to see your existing space and see what the market demand for that space is. A really good tool to use is Uber Suggest. You can search keywords by specific topics and specific terminologies and see how many searches are being performed against this. 2, you need to look at opportunities from your core competitors. Look at your competitors. Again, identify people that have a similar customer avatar to you and see what they're doing. Sign up to their newsletters, follow their social media channels, see what they're doing on a day-to-day basis and how they're progressing over time. 3 is going to be understand your target audience. Sure, you may have a large target audience, but if your target audience is not someone that is capable and willing to pay for your product, or there's a mismatch between what you're charging and what your target audience is expecting, well, that's just not going to work. 4 is understand how to price your product competitively. My core recommendation is always make sure to 3 to 4x your cost of goods. So if something costs you $20 landed, you should be charging at least $60 for it. This is a easy way to make sure that you're remaining in the green and that you don't put yourself in a difficult situation where you could potentially be losing money on every single product sold. Number 5, last but not least, if you have an existing social media channel, take a moment, ask your audience, would you buy this? Would you not? And if you would, why would you buy this? Sure, this may not be a holistic indication of all the people that are going to buy your product, but it's going to give you another data point that you can use to your advantage. Last but not least is Shadi. How do I actually set up the legal entity of my business? And of course, this is going to depend on which country you live in, but in general, there are a couple of key steps that everyone has to take. Number 1 is make sure to file a trademark for your business name and your business icon. 2 is make sure you buy your domain name and secure all of your social media handles. GoDaddy is the best option for that. And of course, go on Pinterest, go on Instagram, go on LinkedIn, go on TikTok. Make sure that you're securing your Instagram handle beforehand. Then make sure you set up your business email and your email address. Then move up and actually create an LLC. Set your business up as a limited liability company just so that you are protected from any unnecessary exposure. Set up a bank account and make sure that everything is in the company name. Don't delay this, because the longer you do, the longer you actually mix your own personal finances with your business finances, the muddier and the less clear things become. Last but not least is just make sure that you are doing your due diligence. If you need to hire a lawyer just to go over your core paperwork, make sure that you're protected, make sure that your business entity is done correctly, well, do so. Spend a couple $100s and make sure that you are avoiding any unnecessary pain down the line. Well, guys, that is it. I know this has been a quite dense video with a ton of questions, but honestly, these are questions I do get on a recurring basis. So I wanted to create one comprehensive, massive master list of everything that I've ever been asked. Hopefully you guys contain a ton of value. Guys, from the very bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Fit Design TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.